Hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, marhaba, bawip grana, weep ninibam. It's time for the Armist Inquisition yet again, episode 273 on Sunday, the 12th of March, 2023. I'm Phil.
I'm Ben.
I'm Matt.
I'm not.
The dwarf, the cripple, and the mother of madness.
Where's Ben? Can't see him.
No.
There he is. Hello, Ben.
Hiya.
Yes, Ben,
Hey,
you're...
is it the Ides of March, or am I early?
What's the date today?
Oh, yeah.
Is it not the 14th?
I don't know. I know it was around here.
It's probably close enough.
It'll do.
You're remote, Ben, tonight, because
I
in
am.
the studio we're joined by Ryan Severed. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm all right, mate. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you again. It's been too long, hasn't it?
Good times ahead.
Went a little bit smashy and nicey there. Phil.
Did I?
It's a little bit nasal, yeah.
Oh, pop pickers.
Yeah.
I'm queuing up a job in the mainstream. That's what it is.
There's loads of them coming up. Have you seen
It's not on the football, apparently.
Yeah, I might do match a day next week.
Pat Sharp? You don't see the Pat Sharp story? We can cover that in the second
Pat
half.
Sharp still around.
Yeah, well, he's just been sacked from Greatest Hit Radio.
Oh, not Funhouse.
No, yeah.
Tragic.
He made a joke about someone's massive boobs, and she got very upset and left.
She?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I am assuming her gender.
You got to be careful these days
Yeah.
with that.
I know, yeah.
Right. Anyway, enough of that hilarity.
Yeah, I know.
Because we've got serious business to talk about tonight, Ryan.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared.
We need to do some occult deconstruction. And we were going to talk about the tarot tonight due to a synchronicity that occurred between us.
Oh, yeah.
But we've decided to defy the gods
Yes.
and talk about Mithraism.
He's a god of sorts.
Is he now?
He kind of is, yes. He might be God. I'm not sure. He's very murky, is Mithras. Bit of a mystery. Lots of other M words. That's Mithras.
Yeah, it's very enigmatic, sort of. Oh, I was going to say cult then, but there is like a classification problem with Mithraism, isn't
Yeah.
there? It's hotly debated, isn't it?
It is more like a cult than it is like a religion. Yeah, there's definitely god forms in there and personalities of gods in there, and they have parts in the story. But it's more to signify stages of rituals, would be the best way to put it.
I mean, there are also likenesses to a mystery school and also secret societies as well. It has components of all four of these things going
Yes.
for it, doesn't it?
It is those things.
All together. It's a mashup.
Well, I think those things come together anyway. The mysteries are the process that you put through when you join the Mithraic cult, and you're taught them by nature of actually doing it. It's very active. It was full of soldiers, so it's got some oomph to it. Bit of chutzpah.
That's interesting you mentioned the soldiers, because that's something that came up in my research. Because unlike most religions, there isn't like a canonical text. There isn't a Hebrew Bible or New Testament or Quran equivalent for Mithraism. So we're kind of reliant on archaeology, aren't we? And these Mithraeum, the temples.
Yeah. There's some references by historians of the time or a few hundred years later that knew about these things. But yeah, most of it is reconstructions from archaeology. However, there is a doctrine. It's just in symbols. And I think the problem with a lot of academics is that they need it in writing. And in this case, the mysteries, as it always is, transmitted by symbols.
Yeah. I remember in my sort of background research on Mithraism, the location of temples that had been found was interesting because they seemed to be concentrated. Well, there was a lot in Rome.
Yep.
Apparently over 600 Mithraeum in Rome.
We actually have an image if you'd like to have a look.
All right. Am I jumping the gun or do we need to get into the slides?
That's a good. We can take them out of order. It's fine. We'll just jump in and people can see while you're talking.
Where is it now? Mithras slides. That sounds promising.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll show you the map
There
here.
you go.
All right. Yeah, so we've got a lot round Rome here and Ostia, which was the port of Rome. And they seem to be concentrated along the Rhine-Danube frontier.
Yes.
And the northern frontier in Europe, Hadrian's Wall,
Yep.
and along France. And also, there's quite a few down here on the Numidian frontier. So Numidia is modern-day sort of Algeria area. And it was the Roman province of Numidia. They were famous for cavalry, the Numidian cavalry. And there's quite a few Mithrae around there, isn't there? And in Greece as well. But interestingly, they don't seem to find many in the east, do they?
Well, because that's as far as the Romans got. It's not actually a Persian cult. It's called, to the Romans, it wasn't called the Mysteries of Mithras or anything like that. It was the mystery of the Persians, the Persian mysteries, or possibly sometimes the mysteries of Perseus. So what's happened is it's quite complex, and we'll get into it later, but it's infiltrated Rome and mutated on its way. And the Romans love to syncretize things, which means kind of pulling what they need from a thing and compare it to their own gods and change things around a little bit for it to all fit in and make sense to them. So there's a lot of that going on. So you said the word frontier. It's the frontier. It's where all the soldiers are. Hadrian's Wall, the frontier.
Yeah. What about time-wise? That might be something interesting to touch on. I'm just thinking for people who are coming to this fresh, who've not heard of Mithraism. I find it quite interesting the way it sort of springs up out of nowhere in the late 1st century AD, the sort of apostolic era.
Yeah. So if we wind it right back to the beginning, we can follow the trail of it. And there's a few starts and stammers in there. So oddly enough, this goes right back to the beginning of Europeans' civilization in general. It's clearly these myths, Mithra, has clearly come from Sumeria and Babylon and these kind of places, and it's like kind of fermented around there. And then as our ancestors left those areas and started going up towards the Black Sea and the Caucasus Mountains and all those kind of places, and the myths and the mysteries really start to kind of cement or at least coalesce. The actual basis of the mysteries of the Roman Mithras are right there, right at the beginning. The sacred cow and the two brothers that cut the cow up. I might as well tell this story, actually. So there's lots of sacred cows in lots of different countries, and they all have the root in the Proto-Indo-Europeans. You mostly know about the sacred cow in India and from the Aryans and whoever else.
And the Apis bull from Egypt.
And Egypt, yeah. So these are all, Egypt's really a colony from Sumeria. And other places as well. Probably. Obviously, there's leeway in these things. You never really quite know. But, so what is the sacred cow? Well, it's to an alchemist, it would be the prima materia. It's the base wealth, nourishment, matter that the universe gives you in order to sustain yourself. It's the base material. And the cow's the first being. So it's this first material, the first matter. And you've got to imagine back in those days, it was a pastoral society, agricultural. You've got oxes, you've got bulls, and you've got cows. You're getting milk, you're getting fat, you're getting meat, you're getting hide, you're getting a worker on your field to plow everything. Yep. So it's a portable sign of your wealth, and you take it to market, and even might show it off like
trade it for some magic beans.
Well, there's that as well, but we'll get into that later. A few magic beans. So we've got this sacred cow, and it is it's a sign of wealth and desire for the ancients. And in one of the first myths, you've got two twins, one called Man and one called Twin. And the myth goes either Man sacrifices Twin or Man and Twin sacrifice this cow. And it looks to be that's because Gemini came up on the spring equinox for the twins. And then after Gemini comes the cow, processionally speaking.
Right.
We'll get to procession later if you don't already know what that is. But the myths of the ancients were predicated on what stars were there at dawn on the spring equinox. And that's the main god of that era. Jesus was fish. Before that, we had the ram of Mithras. We'll get into that later. Before that, you had your sacred cows like the Apis bull. And before that, you've had these two twins.
Right.
So, with that said, these are the early Persians that we're talking about. They're like not northern Iran's, like the lighter coloured people, blue eyes, green eyes, fairer hair, comes from northern Iran. If you look at northern Iran now, you can still see the people there look quite a lot like us English folk, really. Maybe a little more olive skinned. And so the people from that area have got these myths, and they eventually became the Persians as we would know it, the early Persian empires. And they've gotten these myths where they sacrifice bulls in caves, and they kind of come up with these three stroke four characters: Ahura Mazda, Ahriman, Mithras, and Zervan. Zervan's linked with the pole, so you can think like of a neutral point, the pole of the Earth, the axis mundi that reaches up to the pole star, about which we spin. Ahriman is the bad guy. Think about time and space and the oppression of the material. And Ahura Mazda is the good god, everything that's good in life, basically.
And they're twins as well, Ahura Mazda and Ahriman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's this other character associated with Venus. So you can think of Ahura Mazda is Saturn and the moon, kind of the bad guys. Ahura Mazda is the sun. Did I say Ahriman or then?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Ahura Mazda is like the sun and the good characters. And as I said, Zervan's the pole. He's like this indifferent demiurge creator god that he didn't know what he was doing when he made the good god and the bad god. He just was playing this game.
Wow.
That is reality. So we've got this other character because some humans get annoyed at the fact that there's this polarity in the universe, and they're sick and tired of all this. I'm winning, this constant game, and they just want off the ride. So this other character comes about, Mithra to those guys back then, and he's this god that rebels against the system and provides a method by which for the simple human to also get off the ride as well.
Right. So this is like, this would be Zoroastrian theology, wouldn't it?
It becomes that eventually.
Yeah.
So Zoroaster is sandwiched between two Mithraic periods.
Oh, right.
So there's one before and one after. The one after doesn't last as long. It's kind of a reformation. But the period before is Mithraic, and then you get Zoroaster, and I think Mithra's still around, but not really. He's pushed to the back at the least, if not wiped out almost entirely, and then he comes back.
Right. So did the Romans revive him then?
Yes.
Got you.
So what happens is Persia's the great rebels of the great nemesis
Yeah,
of Rome.
It would have been Parthia and then the Sassanid Empire. It
All
was
these
always the big eastern frontier,
Mm-hmm.
which always was going backwards and forth. You know, at some point Rome had right up to the Tigris and the Euphrates, and then they'd get beaten back, and it was...
And you can imagine while this is going on, the cultures is being passed back and forth.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that Persians are Europeans. You think of them of being Middle Eastern, but they are. Persians are Europeans. As we just said, they were from northern Iran and they've come over. They've come left. It went right. When all this stuff went right, it went to India and became a character called Mitra, who's exactly the same.
Right.
Whereas Mithras pals up with Sol, the sun, Mitra pals up with a character called Varuna,
Ooh.
who's pretty much the sun as well. So what happens is there's this Persian king called Mithridates. I can't remember which one it is. There's like 4 or 5 of the Mithridates. And there's a religion at that time in that was common amongst the Seleucid pirates, the Seleucid pirates.
Yep.
I've only ever read that. book.
Seleucid, yeah.
Yeah, and it was almost like an infiltration, like a psyops kind of a thing, where they've taken this religion that's clearly Mithraic, but is based around a cult of Perseus, and the pirates kind of take it to the elites. They're doing wheelings and dealings at that time with Roman elites and the merchants, and it kind of gets in with the minor elites and the bureaucrats and the generals and the soldiers. And it had always been a martial religion. Mithras had always been a warrior because he's a rebel and he needs to fight against the system. This system of Ahura Mazda, Ahriman, and Zervan. This polarity. He wants to get off the ride. So yeah, it's these pirates that kind of infiltrate Rome. And something, Phil, you gave me a portion of a book by I always want to say Richard Matheson, but that's
Dave.
you know, the famous author. And something I picked up from that section that you gave me was that there's a suspicion that the religion of Mithras eventually became much like the Masons, in that it was a secret society that was running things, especially the bureaucrats and the minor royals and eventually higher royals.
And the military.
Yeah, and the military, obviously. The most powerful thing in Rome. And that Christianity was kind of a literalist front for this secret society. And you can see that there are a great many parallels between Mithraism and Christianity. However, with that said, this is a mystery tradition, and there are links and similarities between them all. They all look pretty bloody similar, really.
Yeah. I mean, one of the strongest sort of piece of evidence that Dave gives in that chapter in Myth and Trauma is just the temporal correlation, that this thing appears during the apostolic era.
Right.
And then it sort of vanishes when it's seen to have done its job once Christianity becomes the established religion of Rome. It's, you know, some people would say it's a stretch. I don't know. I wasn't there. You know, he makes some good arguments. It's an interesting argument. And, you know, I remember if people watch the Zeitgeist movie.
Yeah, I remember Zeitgeist.
Or people who are fans of Jordan Maxwell. A lot of astrotheologists bring this connection between Mithra and JC and all the rest of it. So
born on the same day, they say virgin birth. Now there are 2 versions of Mithras birth, but the most common one is he's kind of self-born, which I suppose is kind of a virgin birth. They say he's surrounded by 12 disciples, and he's always surrounded by the 12 of the zodiac, which is exactly the same meaning as the 12 apostles. So there are lots of similarities, mostly because they are based, both religions, but both doctrines are based on the stars. It seems that way for all these ancient religions. I'd assume even in the East, as far as Buddhism and things like that, they're probably star doctrines. Well, Buddha itself is the name for the planet Mercury, and his character does fit the same as Hermes, essentially.
right.
Buddha is literally the word for Mercury.
In what language would it be?
Hindonese.
Indonesian.
Yeah.
Right.
Down the Indus.
Cool. Is it worth looking at some slides?
Yeah, let's have a look at some
You
slides.
sent some slides over. This is the we skipped a few, didn't we? So you
Not
want to,
70 this time.
you want me to go back to the beginning?
Yeah, let's have a look.
That was the first one, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, so on the left, there's Mithra, the original Persian deity. He's holding a pole in his hand and he's shining like the sun. And someone's taking his face off, as they are wont to do in Eastern countries. Defacing, I believe the term is.
Right. Yes, gods fall out of favour, and then their icons are defaced. The Egyptians had a rep for that.
Yeah, the Egyptians like knocking off the noses because that's where you breathe in and that's where the life force is received.
And isn't that where they stick the thing up and pull your brain out?
It is as well, isn't it? Maybe they did that.
Just do it with the finger.
What's that on his shoulder? On his, as we look at it, the right hand shoulder.
Potato waffle.
Gosh knows, it's almost looks a bit like.
I genuinely haven't. This is the only picture I can find of the Persian Mithras, so it's that. I don't have any context for it, so there's not much.
I think it's a man bun. Look at the other the figure
tassels.
next to him.
Yeah,
He's got a bun at the back going into his hair. I think it's his bun.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, curly
well
hair.
Yeah.
it
Curly
would be
man bun.
worth counting the stages and things like that. See if it correlates to the sun or the moon or something like that. These things are usually astrological.
And what
astronomical.
about the ruffles in his pants? Would they?
It's just fashion, mate.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he's got cowboy pants
You
on
got
there.
to.
If you notice.
You've got to draw the line somewhere.
Don't know. They look like the gills of a mushroom to me.
Well, could well be. So these are actually riding pants, and he's dressed in a Persian rider's outfit because the
Nice.
Persians were the original. These guys are from the steppes and and the Caucasus Mountains, and these were the guys that brought horses into the world. And the early Europeans are particularly known for the horses.
Right.
Mithras himself rides a gorgeous white horse. So we can see the Black Sea up there. That's where they all came from. Underneath is a picture of Mithra as he is in the east. And there is Mithras slaying the bull as it is for the Romans.
And a
You-
snake.
And a snake and a dog and Sol in the top left-hand corner. We'll get into all these things as we decode Mithras.
Cool. Shall I skip?
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh.
So these things are worth mentioning. As Mithra does his thing and takes his journey through the eons, you got to think that the origins of these myths are literally at the beginning of civilization, if not way before. So they pick up a lot on the way. On the left, we've got Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh slaughters a bull. We'll see that Mithras slaughters a bull. And it's essentially the same story. We can talk about that later. I don't want to ruin Mithras. But yeah, him and his best mate Gilgamesh get into a bit of a tussle with Inanna, the goddess, and end up having a bit of a scrap.
Right.
Then we've got Hermes there. By the time that the Roman Mithras came about, we'd had the Hermetica had come out, and the teachings of Hermes and Alexandria, which has got a kind of a mix of bits from Egypt, bits from Persia, bits from Greece, but it all kind of amasses.
It's a theological melting pot.
It really is.
Alexandria, yeah.
So,
And he looks very happy with himself.
oh,
there.
he's well chuffed.
He's sporting a rather large boner.
Yes. Well, I can do a quick decoding now if you like. It's kind of interesting. So that, as Phil will know, that's the ashlar stone that you've got to carve yourself out of. This would have been at boundary markers. We still actually use this word in English. We say cairn. Have you ever seen a cairn? A big pile of stones,
Yeah.
usually
Yeah.
up in the hills. Well, that's a herm, and was originally a pile of stones. Same word, essentially. This totally fits in with the myths of Mithras. We'll see later on. It's a bit of a spoiler, but there's something that the ancients called the sexual force, which is like you're in a fire, the thing that drives you, which is represented by his happy phallus there.
Yeah.
And that's the power that you use to chip yourself out of this block. And you'll use it at boundaries, at crossroads and things like that. That's why you always meet the devil at the crossroads. We'll get into this later.
With your boner.
With the sexual force.
Oh, right. Okay.
Ready to fight.
Yeah.
Fight to the death with your
Well-
pork sword.
On guard. I seem to have drawn first blood. That's not blood, man. So we'll see later that we can call this force Luciferian. And that's got a big part to play in what's coming up. On the right is Attis, who's very much even looks like Mithras, we'll see. He's got his Phrygian hat on there. He's got his little scythe for cutting down things. And he's got something else in his hand, which I'm not sure. And he's next to a tree.
What's
Which is
hung up on the
important.
tree, though?
I think, I mean, it's a mushroom, but I'm not quite sure. I haven't studied Attis too much. But Attis was castrated in front of a tree.
Oh,
Did
a
it to himself.
castrati.
Yeah.
Right, like Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
allegedly.
Well, have you heard Michael Jackson's proper voice?
What do you mean? his
Next
proper
time you
voice?
get on the internet, put on Michael Jackson's proper voice. There's lots of Eddie Murphy talks about it, and he's like, "Yo, what's happening?" Yeah, definitely. He had a proper voice. He put that on for because he was a weirdo.
Okay. All right. Fair
Yeah,
dues.
look into it. Like
This-
I'm sure Michael Jackson had a normal voice.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. I'll look into it. Do your own research, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've touched on this map before, but it's just a basic layout, isn't it? Where the
Yeah.
Mithraeum are. We haven't really mentioned the Mithraeum yet, but I'm guessing we'll come
We're
come
coming
to
up to
that. will we?
Mithraeum, but we can stick with this for a sec. One of the reasons why I'm looking at Mithraism is because I found some pillars in Rivington, which is a local green place near us, and that had Mithraic symbols on it. Now, seeing that there's many Mithraeum relatively locally, it makes me wonder if somehow some of that information was left behind. What we can do is trace what happened to the kind of culture of that Persian mystery tradition, even though it had been synthesized by the Romans. It lived on in a similar form ish as these things get integrated between cultures. We'll see that there's like a Gnostic vibe to all this stuff. And what happened was it looks like this information got passed on to the Bogomils and the Cathars.
Oh,
And then obviously the Cathars were French. The Cathars came over to Britain. And the family who owned the church, who made the blocks that I found the Mithraic stuff on, had a French surname. Leandilton.
and there's at least 1, 2, 3 Mithraeum here deep in Cathar country, the Sabart region, with the Pyrenees, just north of the Pyrenees.
Yep.
So
I would think it would have happened, that changeover that I'm talking about would have happened in somewhere like Hungary or somewhere like that.
yeah, that's where the Bogomils were,
Yeah.
isn't it? Hungary. Cool.
Cool.
Should we move on?
Yes, please.
Next slide, please.
So here we have a Mithraeum. This is a posh one from the modern day, but apart from the lighting, which would have been oil lamps, this is a pretty darn good reconstruction. So essentially, it's a long, narrow passageway. This particular one, I'm not sure where it is. Excuse me, I'm going to burp.
Right. Always underground as well, like a cave, interestingly.
Ooh, yeah.
Underground in both senses of the word.
Yeah, exactly,
literally
yeah.
and not literally. Metaphorically.
Yes. We'll decode that later.
Okay.
So in this particular Mithraeum, we've got 2 sets of benches where everybody would have sat. Remember, Romans kind of tended to recline a lot of the time and would have cushions and such. Meals were served in here.
Oh.
And you got to imagine it would have been full of incense and stinky and full of men. And
Yeah.
no one's washing. It would have been a strange...
Oh yeah, no women allowed, by the
No,
way.
no women
So-
allowed. They're possibly changing the mind on that right now, but
Really?
I've not really looked at the evidence, and you never know these days. They like to change history just because of political shenanigans. So it's worth talking about the different symbols. There are a series of symbols on the ground, and I like to think that each step taken along this ladder of symbols gets you a step closer to understanding the main image on the altar at the back, which is the image of Mithras slaughtering a bull called the Tauroctony. And we previously said that the Mithraists, being the most secretive of secret cults, didn't have a written doctrine. Perhaps they did, and we don't have it, but it looks like the entire thing was put into symbols. The same symbols don't appear every Mithraeum. However, the tauroctony without fail appears.
Yes, it's the focal point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other image that appears often is the meal between Sol, the sun, and Mithras,
Yes.
which is very much a reflection of the Last Supper from the Bible.
There's another common image of Sol Invictus kneeling before Mithras as well.
That's not Sol Invictus. Sol Invictus is Mithras. Sol is conquered. We'll get into that later as well. It's very interesting that you said that. So let's take a walk down this little aisle. If we look on the left, we can see that there are several stages of initiation. Each one's related to a planet, one of the 7 planets, and there were 7 stages of initiation.
Naturally.
Of course. So there's the entrance. If we look at the image on the left, it says entrance in the very bottom left of the image. And you would walk in, and there's a well there straight away, much like the holy water when you walk into church. You would be expected to cleanse yourself spiritually by this ritual action. Around the well is the band of the zodiac. So we can imagine what we're doing just by dipping into that well. There's almost touching the stars. Everything that goes on in the Mithraeum is symbolic, including this cave. Just beyond that, at the well, is the image of a crater, and in that crater would be strong wine and water. So there's a liquid in there. Next to that, there's the image of an altar with a burning pine cone on top. The pine cone would be the pineal gland, and the fire, although it would be serotonin in that case, it's this inner sexual force fire that we discussed before that is Lucifer. So we've got this fire and water balance going on.
Yeah.
Above that, above the picture, not the picture, are 2 hats, 2 liberty caps, 2 pileus hats, which were symbolic of the freeing of slaves and were given to freed slaves as a symbol of the status once that had happened in Rome. On the left hat has a little trim of the propellers on top of the stupid hats on cartoons. Well, much like that, it's like a little Ariel on top. They've got a cross, which is symbolic of the pole star. And on the other hat, there's kind of, it's difficult to show, but it's the path of the sun. So essentially you've got the cross of the pole of the ecliptic and the pole of the earth. So the pole of the ecliptic is the path around which the planets travel, and where the zodiac is, which is 23.5 degrees off the axis of the earth, as they would have seen it. We see it the opposite way around because we think we're smarty. So we've already got 2 things that are absolutely paramount in understanding what they're getting at with this mystery tradition. So let's move on. So we've got the 7 grades. The first grade, Corvix, which is associated with the god Mercury. The blackbird there, the crow, is associated with corpses and taking the souls of the dead away. If you can imagine when you'd see a crow, there's a good chance that there's a body nearby, that it's landed. Back in the day, for these soldier guys, you look for the crows, you're going to find bodies. But also it turns out that ravens are very much attracted to Amanita muscaria fly agaric mushrooms. And just like they'll find corpses, they'll go and find these mushrooms. And there's a bird in Africa called a honey watcher or something like that. And the tribesmen go and find this bird, and it'll show them where the honey is. And then they give it a portion of the honey, and it goes and flies off. But it's like they're using birds as sign. Funnily enough, astrologically, this bird is Corvix, which is the same bird that Noah lets go to find land.
Right.
So this grade's associated with Mercury, who's a god of transgressing boundaries. The next grade is the Venus grade, and one of the items is a diadem, which is a lady's tiara, basically. And we're kind of thinking that the initiates, when they go for this grade, is dressing up as a woman to kind of degrade themselves in front of other men, but also to start looking at your shadow side and start looking at the feminine part of yourself and start to integrate that and not be ashamed of it anymore.
Right.
Because this is what the cult of Mithras is all about. It's about Jungian psychology, about integrating your shadow and becoming enlightened. It's just a different way of going about it than the Buddhists would have done.
You know, the Romans, they felt that the Parthians were very effeminate.
Did they?
So did the Greeks when they were dealing with the Achaemenids. Yeah, it was soon like Eastern fairies kind of thing.
Well, coming from the Greeks, that says a lot, because compared to the Romans were quite stiff.
That's
upper lip.
hard. Yeah.
Well,
Stoic.
which is funny because there's some images of Sol and Mithras together, and they're not wearing any clothes, and there's little willies on there. And I'm thinking, I wonder if it's similar to what happened with the Templars, where there was clearly some homosexual stuff going on.
Right.
And because of the taboos of the time, they used that as blackmail to make sure that lips remained sealed about these mysteries.
Yeah. And Elagabalus, who was the emperor who was the Sol Invictus worshipper, he caused consternation coming into the Senate with his like makeup and jewelry and very effeminate clothing on. There's some sort of, I don't know, maybe he was just a bit of a mad bastard. I don't know, probably. But
Yep.
get in touch with your feminine side. That makes sense.
Yep. So that was Venus.
Yeah.
Now the next one's Mars. And the accoutrements of Mars include a helmet and a spear. That is the helmet of a man's helmet, and the spear is the thing that the helmet's attached to. So it's this penetrative, masculine, forceful nature, passion and aggression and wanting to achieve things and discipline and all these other things that come from being a warrior. We've also got the leg of the bull, which is something that's going to come up very much once we get to this tauroctony of Mithras slaying the bull. Again, we've integrated something. We've looked at our feminine side. Now we're looking at our masculine side and trying to hone it like a tempering a sword or something like that.
Turning a rough ashlar.
Yes, into something beautiful. The next grade is this is an interesting one. So this is called the grade of the lion, and it's to do with Leo and Jupiter. Excuse me. So to the Mithraists of all ages, the part of the myth, much like with Noah and the flood, there's a conflagration, as they say, which is a big fiery calcination of everything, burn it to the ground like a forest fire so that new things can come afterwards. Very much symbolized by that pine cone that's on fire. There's a lot of pine cones that open up once the forest fires come and not before. That's literally what makes the pines pop out. This is actually called serotonergic, like serotonin. And it's serotonin that sets off the pineal. So there you go.
The pineal in your head.
In your head.
Yes.
The pineal gland. I'm expecting a certain level of knowledge from your listeners. They seem quite...
I think that's fine.
Good. Thought we were going to insult them then. I could do that too if you like.
Yeah. Knock yourself out.
They'll come and knock me out. So, yeah, there's this conflagration. And on this grade, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 up, we can see the lightning of Zeus, which to the ancients was this big whirlwind of fire, the thing that burns everything down. I'll also note for later on that mushrooms grow where there's been lightning strikes.
Yeah.
Next to that is a sistrum. A sistrum is like an ancient rattle that they'd often used to open ceremonies with. It goes back to a custom where they would rattle the reeds before they go into the marsh, because you don't know what the hell's in there.
Right.
So like that, and it's almost like telling the gods or the demons, I'm here, opening the ways. So it's showing that there's a spiritual dimension to this. And then we've got this shovel. I love this shovel. It's an ash shovel, for fires, for knocking around coals and things like that. Well, you dig into the fire and the shovel will be fine. That's going to be you when you pass this grade. And we'll see. In fact, we can see now. So there is one thing in text that's probably lasted from the cult of Mithras, and that is something called the Mithras liturgy, which is in an ancient Greek papyri collection. And it looks like it's an altered version because they found it in Egypt, but it's like a syncretized version of the rite of this grade, Leo. And it's a trip. Basically, it's clearly a trip. And the whole getting to the place of the mystery, as it would be, to have the mystical experience and coming back. It's a guide. It's clearly a guide, including things to ward off when it starts getting a bit dodgy.
Really?
Yeah, it's really interesting. They start off like, it's A-I-O, and you can tell they're intoning, and then they're popping and hissing, like they're making lightning noises, and summoning, asking that they have a good trip at the beginning. And then so they go through. Might be better to talk about later. Should we just do it now while we're in the flow? Yes, let's do that. So these 7 levels that we're talking about now is a journey through 7 layers of reality, and at each stage you're given like a little spell to overcome that planetary god, or sometimes they're called the pole lords, the 7 pole lords, or the 7 fates, or 7 layers of reality. And the bellowing and making strange noises and sitting in strange positions and making strange movements, very much like Tibetan tantric practitioners. And the breathing in, it says 3 times more than you can handle, and pretend that you're breathing in light as deeply as you can. When you breathe it out, bellow until the sides of your ribs hurt. And they must just be completely off it. There's a recipe for a potion that includes something that's called kentritis, which sounds like a local psychedelic herb, and you got to rub it on your eyes before you begin.
Take you through your eyes.
Yeah, you got onto your eyelids, not onto your actual eyes. It's a really intricate, obvious guided trip with spells in like I said, in case it goes wrong, like silence, you will be cast from my sights.
And is this all just to do with the 4th stage?
This is to do with that stage of Leo.
Wow, right.
The Leo the lion.
Crikey.
So they're already tripping by now.
Yeah.
You've got to understand, people listening, that these ancient mystery traditions, it's turning out after a lot of denial from the guys in the academic world, that they were doing lots of different drugs, basically, put bluntly, and it's obvious. It's obvious that they are, just, if you're not in denial. So, yeah, this really interesting thing is that right at the end, they pass a portal. This is a good place to go, actually. If we nudge it on a little bit, I'll have to tell you when to stop. Keep going. Keep going. There we go, one back, sorry. So this character is called by modernity the Leontocephalid.
Right, yeah.
Which basically means lion head.
Mm.
And I don't think it's a very cool name. Back then, he was called Aeon or Saturn. And what he represents is this Lord Guardian at the very end of these 7. He's the guardian of the 8th sphere. There's these 7 layers of reality and then this 8th sphere, which is to do with the pole, both the celestial pole off the zodiac and our own axis of the earth. And the ancients saw that if that point of the heavens isn't moving, the earth spins, and if you look to the North Pole, that's the point that doesn't move.
Yes.
then that must be a gateway to eternity. Time itself has a beginning and an end, which is eternity in a sequence. When you go to eternity, it's beginning at the end at the same time. Everything's happening simultaneously. You just call it non-linear time. So everything's already happened, and everything's boring. And there's no work to be done because there's nowhere to move, because everything is everything and everywhere is everywhere. And you're in this eternal now that never was and always will be. So
there's a Roman inscription of this dude here, the lion head guy with the snake wrapped around him.
Yeah.
And I believe it's Arimaneus.
That might be the guy that, because these are often votive and they've paid for them.
Yes.
So that might be the guy's name that was, Ryan paid for this.
I think that's a stretch.
Well, it doesn't matter anyway, because he is Ahriman. He is Ahura Mazda, he's Ahriman, and he's the Zervan, the pole.
Right.
He's the good guy and the bad guy. What he is let's just break down his iconography. So he's a bloke with his legs together. That's the pole. Around him is a snake. That is the planets going around the ecliptic. Why is it a snake? Well, they were seen as being fate, like in a horoscope. Saturn does this, Mars does that. Well, that's fate. So fate might do you good that week, or it might do you bad that week. So it's like a medicine. Have too much medicine, it's bad for you. Have just the right amount of medicine, it's good for you. So this is the serpent, because serpent can bite you and it's poisonous, or you can make medicine from its blood. That's nice. So that's the planets zooming around. If you look on his body, he'll often have the symbols of the zodiac. So he's the zodiac as well. He's the pole zodiac. Right. Planets going around it. He's usually got 4 wings, which is the 4 directions: north, east, south, west, and the 4 winds. And to show he's something elevated. So we've got all these different versions of time. He carries a pole, usually. Yeah, he's got the pole there. He's just a bit cut off. Yeah. And 2 keys. The 2 keys are the 2 poles. Pole 1, as we said, is the pole that comes off the Earth, goes to the North Pole star. And then pole 2 is the pole of the ecliptic, which is the plane that the planets travel around. And you've got to imagine that would have its own pole. It's slightly skewed off from the Earth. That would have its own pole. So those are the 2 keys. They're the keys to the mysteries. Why are they the keys to the mysteries? Well, they are the keys to this fiery realm, this 8th sphere, which is the same as the Platonic realm of ideas. It's like the blueprint place for everything to happen down here. It's eternity. It's everything happening all at once. So everything's already there. It's just out here, it's not all happened yet, or some of it has happened, so it's not around anymore.
Is that what Plato called the realm of forms?
Yes.
Right. Where these sort of, what do they call them? Where something's like the form of a table. There's a...
ideal.
Ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Form of a tree, a table.
Yeah.
This realm.
Yeah.
This is how you access it. You got to get past Linehead.
Yeah. I think when he's explaining tree and bench and things like that, obviously those are human labels. Less so for tree. What he's getting at more is like the Platonic solids and things like that, which pop out of all this pole star stuff, as we remember. So, the key to the mystery is that if I tell you the mystery now, I'll ruin it for a bit.
No,
later.
go back then. Don't save it.
Yeah. So we got another form of time here, which is that lion's head, which is the head of Leo. That is particularly associated with this fiery realm. So much so, he's got a hole in the back of his head, so you could stick a torch in there and fire would come out of his mouth.
Wow.
This guy on the right, he's breathing fire into that crater, that mixing bowl potion, because that fire of eternity from this fiery realm is coming through him. There is a kind of eternity in this realm of time. That's the moment, the present moment, the everlasting now. There might be a future to come and there might have been a past, but there's always a now. We live in the ever-present now.
Right.
You don't live in the past or the future.
No.
So that is present time. Present time is, this is a Saturnian figure, obviously a time god figure. Saturn was Chronos, time, chronology. The moment, just like Saturn eats his children, the moment is constantly burning itself. It's constantly gone, constantly destroyed.
Yeah.
So that's this part of eternity that's over here. He's breathing that eternal fire into there. This realm of ideas is going into that potion. That potion's a sacrament. We can also see a serpent wrapped around it. You can see a serpent popping out the top. Again, that's relating to the venom of the serpent and what the ancients called pharmacon, which is medicine, which can mean poison or medicine. So it's crazy drugs, baby.
Cool. Yeah, it's such a wild icon, that guy, isn't it?
He's frightening. Can you imagine seeing him? So he's the bad guy and the good guy because time and fate are pretty much the same thing. You know, through time, fate happens. So it might be good things, it might be bad things. And so he's the good guy and the bad guy and the null pole between that actually doesn't care at all. So let's wind it back a little bit. Okay, I'm going to show you something cool. Yeah, if you go back one, that'd be a good place to go.
A picture of the night sky
The
here.
night sky's beautiful.
I need to zoom in, rotate, enhance.
Yeah.
There you go. See
You
a bit
need
clear.
to put one eyebrow up like that.
Yeah.
Get really wispy and old. No, there. Get your monocle in. Do the sky at night.
Games Master.
So this is, it's quite faint, I see, and we've got a light shining in our faces, so it's probably even fainter. But these are the stars that all relate to the mystery of Mithras, the main story of the Tauroctony. We've got Taurus, who is the bull in this story. We've got Orion to his left, holding his arm up there, who plays the part of Mithras in at some points. And if you look above the bull, we've got Perseus, just above the bull's back. Now that is the definitely that plays a big part in the story of Mithras. You must understand that the ancients didn't have TV; they had fires and looking up. So they would. This is a picture book of memes, and you can remember the stories by this beautiful picture book.
Yeah.
So there are lots of animals that come along with Mithras. We've got a serpent, which is not on here, but that's Hydra. We've got the Crater, which is a constellation called Crater. We've got the Raven, which is Corvix. He's got a hunting dog, which is Canis Major, that you can see in the bottom left corner there, where it says Sirius, Canis Major. That means the big dog. We said the bull. He has two friends called Cortes and Cortopates, who are the twins of Gemini.
Right, they're often depicted either side of him, aren't they, in the Tauroctony? And one's usually holding a torch up, and one's holding a torch down.
Yes.
Which just screams like alchemy
and shamanism and
as above, so below,
stuff,
and all that stuff.
I think a lot of times people get caught up because they go, "Oh, it's all in the stars, isn't it?" And you're like, "Yeah, that's really cool." And then they stay there, and they don't realize that's telling you another part of the mystery. Really, it was in the stars first, then it came into the religions, and then people have decoded that and gone, "Oh, is this about the human body, or is this about something to do with us and psychology?" And sometimes you just get stuck in the stars. However, so we should actually tell the story of Mithras, I think.
Yeah.
Can we kind of try and breeze through it?
Do you need the stars up there? Or,
I will need different images to jog my memory. So
right.
if we go back one or two, that's fine.
That's
the one, yeah. I know we didn't quite finish off the stages of initiation, but you can quite imagine that we're going through these different levels.
I don't think I'd get past 4 anyway, mate.
No.
You know.
Something got
You'd have a bad trip. Right, could you blow this up for us? Just so I've got a reference.
There you go.
Thank you. So Mithras is born from an egg. He's from a raging lust alone, it's said. So straight away we've got the image of a a willy. But also this raging lust, which I'll refer you back to this sexual force, which I'll give you a little clue, is that same fire in that fiery realm. So he's born in front of a river and in front of a tree. There's lots of gods that do this. Attis cuts his genitals off in front of a tree. Demuzid is found under a tree. Lots of other guys are found under a tree. And every time it's got something to do with a penis. And I will say that Amanita muscaria, the red fairy tale mushroom, grows from under a tree. And it's almost always a pine tree. He's born with his legs together, wearing only a red hat, Mithras. And on that red hat has the stars. That red hat is called a Phrygian cap, or a liberty cap, as we would know it. Yes, the same thing as a liberty cap mushroom is named after. As we can see in the image in the top left, he has the 12 of the zodiac around him, and he's kind of reaching up into it as if he might grab hold of it and turn it a bit, and that is something that he does later on in his mystery. So straight away, Mithras is a boss hunter. He's really good at what he does, and everyone seems to get along with him. The word Mithras means friend. It means to bind. So it could mean friend or contract or a few other things like that, or to tie or to meet.
Right.
And on the right panel, we can see the Tauroctony and lots of other stages of Mithras's life. These would have been in almost every Mithraeum. What's very annoying about it is that it's all scrambled and out of order and probably there to confuse anyone that might stumble upon it. But let's have a go at decoding the myths of Mithras quite quickly. So, around the outside, we've got the four winds, which are sent by the bad guy, Ahriman, or Saturn, to slow Mithras down, as they would. Each have their own flavour of annoyance. One's warm, one's cold, one's dry, etc. If we see around those four guys in circles around the outside, in the first squares down, we can see the four seasons. So already we're dealing with time. Underneath those different depictions, we can see on the right, third panel up, that's Mithras in the nude as an archer. The Persians were particularly famous for being horse riders and wicked archers. Yeah. Sol, the sun, who we can see in the gold chariot on the top layer that's shaking Mithras' hand, and Luna, which is in the opposite chariot coming downwards. The other two that are always present. Less so in these. They normally have circles of their own and are looking down and obviously influencing things. So Sol sends Mithras on a hunt to go and find the sacred cow. What does a sacred cow mean? Well, we've already said it's material wealth. It's things that you might desire. It's at once your animal self and your animal desires. It's related to Venus as the morning star, and Venus as, Venus means desire. It's those things that you desire. Why am I saying it's related to Venus? Well, Venus rules, as astrologers would say, rules Taurus. And there's lots of evidence to say that they knew this as well. So Mithras goes on a hunt early on, and we can see him stuck out at the top of a tree. If we look at top left of that image, you can see Mithras poking out the top of a tree. Yep. What's happened is he's gone up to this tree picking the fruit, and then, this is great. He's already been sent off on a hunt, and he's been distracted. He's not even seen the bull yet, and he's going, lovely fruit, sweet, this fruit. And he's going, shit, there's a snake in that tree. Sounds familiar, this, doesn't it? There's a snake in that tree. He's like, hang on a minute. This is a distraction. I'm eating these sweet fruits, and I should be looking for that bull. I'll climb the tree, and I'll look out from a higher perspective. And he spots the bull. And the snake comes out of the tree, and he makes mates with the snake. Instead of it being against him, because he's Mithras' friend to everybody, he makes mates with the snake, and it ends up helping him on his hunt. Right. This is, in a modern medical sense, this is the spine. which is the serpent in the tree. The tree is the pathways, the nerve endings coming off. The fruit is your endocrine glands, which spit sweet, juicy hormones from that fruit. Do you know what I mean? And do you indulge in the dopamine, or do you hang on and bask in the serotonin later on? Do you know what I mean? Dopamine is addictive. Dopamine's there quickly. Serotonin's on, dopamine's, I'll play that game, I'll get on Facebook or whatever, I'll do something quick and easy and it gives me a bit of dopamine and I want more. Serotonin's not like that. Serotonin's the win of it at the end of a race, 20 minutes later. Serotonin's, I've done that amazing thing. Serotonin's, delayed satisfaction, essentially. And from this, he gets a higher perspective. Gets out the tree, sees that bull. He gets the bull. First of all, the bull takes him for a ride. And he's trying to keep hold of it. And then he managed to wrestle it. And he sticks it over his shoulders. You can see there next to the guy in the tree. Oh, by the way, when he's looking at the tree, normally on hieroglyphs, they always look sideways, left or right. Well, he's breaking that convention and he's looking through the fourth wall, through that tree.
The original fourth wall break.
Mm.
So anyways, he's gone and got this bull and it's a right pain in the backside. And he can't keep hold of it. In fact, he takes it back to the cave and it escapes again. And Saul's like, Mithras, come on now. You've got to slaughter that bull. And Mithras is like, oh, bloody hell. I don't want to do it, man. It's a nice bull, this, and I want to have my cake and eat it. Kind of an idea. Do you know what I mean? He's got to sacrifice it. Why do I have to sacrifice the bull? The bull's Taurus, the bull. And this is the end of an age. The fact that we've talked about the two poles, the ecliptic pole and the axis of the earth, is getting at something called precession, the precession of the equinoxes. There's a secondary movement to the sky that goes backwards. So if you woke up 2,160 years after the current age, right now on the ecliptic, you can see, what is it? I think it is Pisces, just about Pisces. Now we're heading towards the edge of Aquarius.
We're cusping.
Yes. But if you woke up 2,160 years from now, you'd see the next one on, which is the age of, you'd see Aquarius going into Capricorn, because these things go backwards. So in order for time to move on, in order for dawn to come, in order for spring to come, Mithras has got to kill that bull for the same reasons we talked about with the lion and the time-devouring nature of the moment. It's got to go. The moment's got to go. And if you don't fertilize this moment with the things that you've got now, the fields will be fallow. So Mithras looking away, which is another sign of him doing this precession of the equinoxes, because they move backwards. Normally it would be Aries, Taurus, Gemini, but in this case it's Gemini, Taurus, Aries, and backwards we go. So he's got to move the age on. And once he's killed that bull, from its tail grows wheat, from its blood new things grow. All the good herbs and foods are said to grow from the bull. What it really is like with the Apis bull. The ancients realized that you've got to sacrifice in order to get things out of it. You've got to sacrifice time in order to master something. You've got to sacrifice that bull in order for there to be enough room in the herd for more bulls. So sacrifice meant a lot to them. They used to sacrifice the king. And it's acknowledged that when they sacrificed the Apis bull, that they were really sacrificing Osiris and really sacrificing the pharaoh. The bull's the next most expensive thing. So you're killing what you love. And it's the feminine. So you're killing the feminine in you. In this case, the feminine is all those parts of you as a warrior. And this is a warrior cult. As warrior, all those parts that are nostalgic, all those parts of you that basically need to go when you're on that battlefield, or for you to live a fulfilling life in this kind of role. So he kills that bull. The age moves on. The spring comes and everything's beautiful again. Now there's a metaphor in here, and that is this renewal can happen to you if you kill the bull of your animal passions. The animal passions being the vices. as opposed to virtues. Now he does this in a cave. What's the cave? The cave's your skull. It's also Plato's cave,
Oh,
which outside of which was Aeon, which is a name for the fiery realm of ideals. Aeon is the name of that god with the lion's head and the four wings and everything wrapped around him. So we're dealing with this eternity thing. Once Mithras has killed that bull, Sol comes down and congratulates him. The mates now, he's done this thing that the Sol couldn't achieve. Because the sun, Sol, can't move the stars.
oh, wow, right.
But Mithras can. Mithras is actually linked to Venus as the rebel, as Lucifer. Because Venus rises in the morning, and because it actually orbits around the sun, it's never really that far away from the sun. So you'll see it in the morning because it's close to the sun. It comes up before, and it's not been drowned out by the light yet. So you'll see it in the morning, and you might see it in the evening because the sun's already gone. Other than that, it looks like it's going, oh, I can do this. And then the sun goes, I had no chance, mate. And then it's been drowned out.
Yeah.
So at night, it's seen to go into the underworld. In the day, it's seen to try and, beat the sun. So it's this rebel character. And it comes at twilight hours, and twilight's got a lot to do with these shamanistic adventures because you're in a twilight place where the sun and the moon meet. The sun being the conscious mind, the moon being the subconscious. And when those two things meet, you get the alchemical marriage and these trippy, these drug trips. And you can do it off your own body chemistry, as I explained before with the serotonin. But it's a drug trip because...
And probably
So,
that breathing, those
Oh, yeah.
breathing
Oh,
exercises
absolutely, yeah.
that you were talking about before could probably induce
And you got
a
to
psychedelic experience.
think there'd be like frankincense and myrrh and other trippy incenses, probably cannabis and all sorts in there. So Sol takes Mithras up. But just before that happens, they have sorry, let me backtrack a little. First of all, Mithras goes, hey, I can have your crown. and Sol's like, cheek, and he goes, hey, no, wait a minute, mate. I slaughtered the bull, done that thing that you couldn't do. And he holds the bull's leg above his head. We can see in the top row, sorry, the second row down, he's holding the bull's leg over him. Now, the bull's leg is a cheeky reference. Let's do this whirlwind quickly. It's tough to get your head around, but the leg of the bull is the plough. The plough looks like a bull's leg. It was called the leg of the bull in Egypt and lots of other places. Sumeria, everywhere. The leg of the bull is a polite reference to the willy of the bull. The willy of the bull looks like a willy. A mushroom looks like a willy. Mushrooms come from the cow. They grow on cow poo and they look like willies. Did I mention about willies?
I think you did.
So the stab spot where Mithras stabs the bull and slaughters it is, if you look on Taurus, that's where the Pleiades is. The Pleiades looks exactly like the plough.
Yeah, but tiny.
But tiny and nebulous and beautiful, and was associated with the 7 vices. Orion chases them and he fancies them, basically. Again, it's his vices. So they're saying the kill point, the thing that you kill it with, is this thing in the neck of the bull, which is the leg of the bull. And the leg of the bull is the leg of the bull. And he's like, you're going neck of the bull, leg of the bull. What does this mean? And then it's a mushroom. To the point where Aleister Crowley, on one of his tarot cards, associated with Taurus, the Taurus card, he's got a Persian guy, the neck of the bull on one side and the leg of the bull on the other side of his neck, as if he's carrying it like Mithras carried it.
Yeah.
And on the leg of the bull, one hoof terminates in a hoof and the other hoof terminates in a mushroom.
I remember the slide.
Yeah. And we'll see lots of mushrooms very soon, I promise you. Because I know it's one of the more unbelievable things, even though I've talked about platonic realms of ideas. It's one of the more difficult things to get your head around. However, they have a meal where they cook the leg of the bull and the flesh of the bull, and they lie on the rug of the bull, the hide of the bull, and they have a nice meal. We can see that meal in the bottom left there. That's why I was saying it. That's Roman, and you've got two naked fellas there, like cuddling up to each other. So but they are merging with each other. This is where we said a minute ago the sun couldn't defeat what Mithras could do. The sun can't move the stars, and I corrected you before, and I said what people think Sol Invictus isn't Sol Invictus. Mithras is Sol Invictus. Sol is Sol, because the way the ancients saw it, the sun got conquered every goddamn day. Every time it goes night.
Exactly, yeah.
But Mithras is a different sun. He's a hypercosmic sun. He's the sun that shines the light in this fiery realm, a dark sun. He's the black sun.
Oh, dear.
But
I don't like where this
I know,
is going.
it sounds scary. It literally just means that it's not a physical object. This is the root source of the energy of the universe. Basically, it's the fiery realm, and all the energy and all the time and all the space comes through this still point at the North Pole. It's the still point. It's a portal, because that still point's just like eternity. There's no time at a still point.
Yep.
So Mithras, having eaten this meal and drank this potion, and if we look at that image on the bottom left, they're under two roses. You know what sub rosa means? Under the rose, which is a sign of secrecy, which I think is pretty cool. And let's also say that roses are red flowers, and the mushroom they use is the red fairy tale mushroom. So there's links there again. And they've made a mushroom-shaped table from bull's legs.
Legs, yeah.
So at this point, Mithras is taken up to the heavens and deified. He goes back to this fiery realm, also called the Empyrean, also called Eternitas. And he moves the heavens. What does that mean? Well, it means that the good God and the bad God haven't had the way. The good God's happy about it, Sol. The bad God, who is the Arimanus, or Arimanius, which one was it? The Leontocephalid, the lion-headed guy from before, it's fair to say that he's the bad guy to the ignorant, but to the good guy, he's a guardian. Because the devil, time, Satan, Saturn, is your best teacher. If you see that snake, that forked-tongued snake, you know that you should beware. And if you've got your guard up, and if you're aware, like Mithras at the top of that tree, that snake's not going to get one over on you. It can become your friend. He's like George and the dragon, but he doesn't kill the dragon. He best buddies with it, and they go down the pub. But they don't drink. Let's have a drink.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he goes up to the heavens and he turns the world, this processional turn, which is essentially saying that no one's got the upper hand. Mithras can always turn it himself.
He instigates the procession to the next age, leaving the age of Taurus, the bull, and into the next stage. That's what we're representing.
Indeed. And if we pull down all this highfalutin philosophy into the individual, Mithras is a guide, as in a guidebook, not just a guide, to have that experience yourself, to go beyond the bounds of fate. The whole point in a mushroom trip particularly, or any mushrooms' main active ingredient is dimethyltryptamine with a few extra carbon molecules on the end. Dimethyltryptamine is the most potent psychedelic we know of, and is produced by the body from serotonin. You get enough serotonin going, you can produce DMT yourself. Seems to be mostly around the lungs and the pineal gland. So once you have this experience, people that have got really bad psychological conditions, it's not a case of you take enough mushroom and you'll be cured of it. It's you take enough mushroom and have the mystical experience. That's the cure. What is the mystical experience? Well, speaking from personal experience, it is being in a place where your consciousness has nothing else to comprehend, space, time, yourself, apart from itself. You're just aware. It's just a pure awareness. And it's like being God, because there's nothing else there. That's what God is, isn't it? In theory, God is the whole thing.
The singularity,
yeah. So that's what it feels like. And you're not sat there thinking, oh, I've taking all these weird mushrooms, you're just in a bliss state, like bathing in love. And then for me personally, I was like, oh, this is magical. I'm bored out of my tree. I want to come back. And then you appreciate life a lot more. You have an experience of this fiery realm. You have an experience of eternity in one place, which is cancelled. It cancels itself out, like the Four Wings and all those different types of time on that lion-headed guy. They just cancel each other out. The other thing they say in that Mithras liturgy is that you can petition Mithras for an awakening, for some information as well. And I know when I've been in those places that you do kind of get downloads of like understanding. And if you can hold on to the bugger, like trying to land a fish, if you can hold on to that fish, you can have it, but it's difficult to hold on to. And sometimes, quite frankly, it's beyond words anyway. So, yeah, you can spend like a year or several. I've spent 10 years trying to pull that particular trip apart.
Oh, I remember reading that book about the cosmic. Was it called The Cosmic Serpent?
Yeah, not ready
About
yet.
the shamans in South America, and they're adamant that the DMT trees, the serpents
Right.
in the DMT trip, taught them which plants to, you know, they could read the DNA essentially. It was like it's a trip, but a useful trip. You mentioned downloading information.
Yeah.
And people just write off. For hundreds of years, they were just called psychotic.
Yeah.
Like the ethnographers, they just labelled them as off the rocker, like. But things are starting to change, I feel, in that regard. It's not starting to take these guys seriously. That they actually, it's like all the drugs that are the big farmer sells. You know, they're all based on trees and herbs and roots. And the big pharma companies were straight into South America and Central America, taking up shamans' ideas, swap a molecule here and there, patent it.
Yeah, patent it.
Yeah. And they never got paid. Never got paid a dime for the troubles going on the trips and talking to the DMT serpents for our benefit. Anyway, I digest.
Well, it's got to be said, though, that thanks to those people, the New Age has got an interest in it all. And there's been, probably because of the New Ages, frankly, that acceptance has come about by the academics. Because the New Age and universities kind of go together, don't they? Because if you're going to be any kind of religious fundamentalist while you're at university, it's probably going to be some hippie type. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's easily accessible and easy to get your head around because it's mostly nonsense. It's what you want it to be, isn't it? That week. So, as I said, this is a guide for the initiate as well. Now, I want to show you something really cool before we go into the...
Hang on.
Oh, my phone.
I've got to zip out and then move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keep going. And again. This one.
Ooh,
This is interesting. This.
that looks like
So-
a swastika.
Yeah. The earliest Indo-European symbol is the swastika, and one that we all share. And you can see the story of the travel log of the swastika by where it's gone, and this religion by where it's gone. You know, Buddhists use it, Tibetans use it, Indians use it. We used it until recently, till the Nazis got hold of it and ruined it all. But
Yeah.
you know, you could see it in Native Americans used it. It was everywhere. Probably the oldest symbol. And it does represent the plough going around the pole star. We all know the plough, the Ursa Major, the Great Bear. Now, there's a guy called, he's got a cool name, Reza Asasi. And he, knowing what we were talking about before, about the two different poles, which, by the way, the two pillars of the Masons and the two pillars at the front of Solomon's Temple. at the top of the pole of the Earth is the swastika as we know it, the plough. But then there's this other pole. So what's at the top of that? And Reza Assassi noticed that if we look at the center stars, where the cursor is right now for us, you can see that the only asterism you can really make out is a cross. Can you see?
This bit here.
Yeah, that bit there. So that's the swastika going in the opposite direction, which is really cool.
That's right in the center of the image. If you're watching.
And that is the pole of the ecliptic, the pole of the zodiac and the planets. The not galactic plane, the plane of the solar system.
Solar system, yeah.
So if we go forward one, you have to blow it up. Kaboom. Oh, it's a bit dim here. Oh, what a shame. What he did was he took Mithras doing the tauroctony and he laid it over the top of that and it fits. I'm sure everybody at home can see with this bright light shining in our face, so it's pretty tough.
He took the tauroctony, that image that was in the square, the sort of the main image.
the main image of him stabbing that bull,
Right.
and he laid it over the top of it and it fits.
That center of the solar system pole.
Yes.
Wow.
Right, perfectly.
That's amazing. Because you've got, like you said, you've got the dog, you've got the scorpion chewing on the bull's testes, and all these constellations fit into it.
Yeah, it's different things at different times. Like we said, it's like TV. You're going, oh, there's this and there's that. Sometimes it's Perseus because it fits the story. He's killing the bull. Sometimes he's chasing the bull, so he's Orion because Orion stood in front of the bull trying to chase it down.
The archer.
Yeah. There's no right. It's not very fixed. It's quite fixed, but not very fixed. And they're quite at liberty to say, oh, there's this second pole, and that's the idea of Mithras, because like we said, the energy of Mithras comes through. Right. So Mithras has kind of been deified now. What's really funny in the Mithras liturgy, first of all, you meet Aeon, the god on the guardian god at the gates. Then you meet Sol, and then you meet Mithras, and they all come out in light. And you must look to the center of the light and see a beautiful image of a young man. The first young man's wearing a white tunic with a red cape, as in a mushroom. And that's Sol. And then the second guy comes out and it's Mithras, and he's wearing gold pants, a white tunic and a gold hat. And if you look at, there's two main species of magic mushroom, psilocybe and amanita. Amanita is the red Mario mushroom. Psilocybe is like a classic kind of plain beige mushroom, really, but with a golden top and with golden legs, which is fun.
They give you an extra life as well, don't they?
They do.
golden
The
shrooms.
one-ups.
Yeah. Sorry, can we look at the images again? I know we've just found our faces. Hello, everybody. Just go flick through.
Forward.
Advance.
I'm not sure. I just threw
That's
these
the last
together.
one, I think. Oh, no.
There we go.
I think we might have missed the odd one in the middle as well, but
We can have a look at those in a minute.
Enhance.
So this is the imagine traveling through the realms. That triangle with the rose at the top is the Imperium, the fiery realm.
right.
We can see the realm of the earth is in the center, and we got the moon.
Why is there a traffic cone at the bottom of the earth?
Students.
Mushrooms, isn't it? And students.
They've camped on top as well.
No, the stripes, the red and white stripes, are associated with poles everywhere. Even Native America, from
Absolutely.
thousands of years ago, they had a red and white stripy pole like your barber shop.
And so that's Mount Meru, which is the center of the earth. It's the axis mundi again, basically.
Yeah.
Then we've got the moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun. The sun's always in the center. So I'm not quite sure if they didn't know the sun was in the center of the cosmos, because he's always in the center. It's always from a geocentric perspective, but isn't life from a geocentric? You know, you're the
My life's
middle
a philocentric
Philocentric.
perspective.
Philharmonic. Then we've got Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and these are pretty much in the same order. pretty much in the same order as the Mithraic initiations.
Right, yeah.
Then we've got the Starry Realm, and beyond that, the Imperium, the Eternitas, and we can see that famous alchemical image of your man there poking his head out
Whoa.
next to the tree.
Don't stick your head out there, man.
Whoa. And that's, like you mentioned Perseus before, there's the Perseus constellation is often, I'm sure it's often aligned to mythical people who wash their faces and wash their heads.
What about
Is that right?
in
Medusa?
the Milky Way?
Oh, because he dips his head up there.
Dips his
yeah,
head.
yeah. He's well.
Your man Midas, King Midas.
Turning shit to gold.
Yeah, to avoid the curse, to get rid of the curse, he has to follow the Milky Way and bathe his head in the Milky Way, jump into the waters to remove the curse. A bit like that guy.
I'll tell you something interesting about Perseus. Perseus is Mithras. The two characters form together in many ways. We keep talking about mushrooms. Perseus, on his way back from having, I think it was slaying the Gorgon, cutting off Medusa's head, he drops the end of his you got to imagine a sword, a scabbard. Well, on the end of their scabbard, so the sword didn't stab through, they'd have a little mushroom cap. And he drops his mushroom cap off the end of his sword when he's flying around on Pegasus. And it hits the ground. And he goes down there, and where he's dropped it, he finds a mushroom. And he picks the mushroom, and from underneath the mushroom is a wellspring. And he's like, oh, it's sweet water, this. And then he goes, I like it so much here, I'm gonna make a city. And he calls it Mushroom Mycenae. Oh. And when I looked at Mycenae, it's a walled city in the shape of a bull's leg.
No.
Boom. Yeah.
Fucking hell. So Mycenae is the ancient forerunner to Greece, the Bronze Age forerunner to ancient Greece.
Like the earliest. And these...
Agamemnon and all that shit.
All them guys.
Yeah.
The first European, according to the myths, is Europa, who travels in on the back of a bull. Well, what's on the back of a bull? It's the Pleiades again, on the neck of the bull. That's what's on the back of the bull. And she comes over, she's supposed to be a Phoenician, and she's picking red flowers. And then Zeus comes down as a bull and whisks her off to Crete, where the Minotaur is. In fact, the Minotaur's born because Pasiphae, some bint, fancies Jupiter, Zeus as a cow, and she can't have it, and she disguises herself as a mechanical cow, so he comes and rapes her, and then the production of that is the Minotaur.
Minotaur, yeah.
But then the son of the Minotaur is this guy called Glaucus, who stains blue and must be preserved in honey and goes through all these other mushroom things. Right. He's like quite clearly a mushroom, Glaucus. Something else about Perseus as well is he's conceived by a golden shower. And if you know anything about Amanita muscaria, is that urine's linked with it because the body processes the ibotenic acid that's present in the mushroom and actually strengthens it once it's been through the body, I think 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, aren't you supposed to drink the urine?
Yes.
After you've eaten.
Mm-hmm.
To get the full hit.
Gross.
To go and meet Aeon. If you want to go and meet Aeon, you've got to drink your piss.
You got to do the wee
4 times.
4 times. Yeah. Hey, small price to pay to be, 10 to the 8th realm.
Yeah, stick your head.
Escape the 7 spheres and...
Mm.
It's great. It's just boring. It's true. I had somebody else said that once you get there, it's like that's enough to last you for the rest of your life. Because I think according to the myths, it's that eternity, i.e., all time happening all at once. Nothing's happening, and you can't understand yourself because you're already there. This is the mind of God. So it's got to play the drama out in time to know itself.
Yeah. This is why we get sent down to this realm, is it not?
I'm not sure about anything, but it feels that way. It feels like it's a game where you got to level up and gain your soul. Lisa Simpson said, Your soul isn't something that you're necessarily born with. It's a cup that you fill up over your life.
Wow. That's incredibly prophetic for The Simpsons.
It's that early Simpsons when it was good.
Mm.
So let's see what else, what other treats we have.
Have we?
We've got non-linear, I think.
I'll have to press that button and then this one. We'll go backwards.
Yeah, we'll go back.
We've done the stars. This is the famous image.
Yeah, it's a famous one, this. If you open it up, one book I've not read is the one book I probably should read, which is Carl Ruck's book, The Mushroom Cult That Enlightened Europe, talking about this. And this is the image from the front. And I'm like, why has he got this one on the front? And I'm like, oh, clearly, if you look at his skirt, can you see all the mushrooms, obvious mushrooms in his skirt?
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about Cortes and Cortopates, which are the two guys on the left and right. One holds his torch up, one holds his torch down. And as they would say in the macabre tradition of the Jews, which was another mystery tradition that was all to do with the pole, the macabre means chariot, like the chariot of the plough.
Right, yeah.
It used to be called chariot. In England, it was called Arthur's Wain. A wain is a chariot, as in King Arthur. King Arthur's the pole star. 12 Knights of the Zodiac. You know what I mean? What was I saying then? I've lost my track.
You're just talking about the two twins, either
Two
side,
twins.
one up, one down.
One up, one down. So you go in to go out. Obviously, you're tripping balls. So it's not like you're getting on a rocket and actually going up to the fiery realm. You're going within. And then once enough of the resistors that are your ego, your sense of time, your sense of space, your sense of self, once they're pulled away from you, do end up in this realm of eternity. It's eternal because you've got no idea what time is.
Time doesn't exist.
No.
If
something happened in the room, I must say, if something happened, you could pull yourself back and go, fucking hell, strong mushrooms this. Oh yeah, it's my house on fire. I better get out. You know, you're not like stupefied. But when you're relaxed and calm and you know, much like when you're nodding off, but much more profound.
You know, is anything to do with brainwaves? You know, like your alpha and your theta and
yes,
resonance with what's the underlying resonance of planet Earth? What's the name for it?
Oh, the Schumann cavity resonance.
Schumann frequency. Yeah, 7.83 hertz.
Same as yours, isn't that?
It's the border between theta and alpha.
And alpha, yeah.
Yeah. Is that something? Does the psychedelic, you think, help tune that?
When I had my personal experience, once I got over to that null place, it was like bathing in love, and that love was a frequency, like a whoo, that was everything. That was all that there was, and it was bliss. I think it was bliss because there was nothing else to think about. There was just being, and so it's naturally blissful. Thinking. You think most of the time because you got a problem to solve. You don't think, oh, what a wonderful beach. You're going, oh, that's from your heart. You know what I mean? You breathe in and, you're not thinking. And when you're not thinking in these places, I think that your natural disposition is happiness and bliss. And
yeah.
And when you're relieved of all the troubles of the world, everything reunites, and it is coming back. It is totally like a rebirth. Like that trip is the reason why I've studied all this stuff. I kind of done it backwards. What would have been the revelation at the end, I had it right at the beginning.
Yeah, you went to level 7 at
8.
the beginning. 8, sorry. And you should have started at level 1, Ryan.
I know. I cheated. I used the code. Up, down, left, right.
Down, left, right. A start.
Magic mushroom.
Yeah.
Finish him.
And then went blue, 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 blue. And got bigger. So, is one's pointing up, that's the spring, one's pointing down. So you got to think that Taurus, although it's a sign of spring because you see it on the dawn in spring, just before the sun pops up, you see it at the opposite end of the year in the night sky. So it's like in autumn that you're seeing it at mushroom season. And they were noting the movement of herds by the Pleiades popping up. So you can quite imagine they're going, oh, it's mushroom season. And so the guy pointing down is pointing to mushroom season. The guy pointing up is pointing to spring. But as we spoke about in those previous podcasts way back, this is Saturn season. Saturn lives in the underworld, and there's lots of death and resurrection things that go on there. And Scorpio, which is Cotopathes, the guy pointing down, he is Scorpio. You'll see, not on this one, but he'll have Scorpio next to him, the scorpion.
Yeah.
The scorpion's actually biting the bollocks of the bullock.
Yeah, the bullets of the bullock.
Yeah. It's finishing him off because he's opposite. Whatever, signs always come in pairs. Like the bread and fish of Jesus is Virgo, the wheat holder carrier, and the fish is Pisces. These things come in pairs.
Polar opposites.
Yeah. So the downwards part of this, the winter part, is the shamanic experience, and there's a whole death in Capricorn and cleansing in the waters of Aquarius, and then a mystical experience in Pisces as you pop back up again in Aries, and Taurus is like the real beginning of the year. You could call Aries false spring and Taurus actual spring.
Another thing worth mentioning while we got this image up, which I don't think we mentioned, going back to the Mithraeum, which were the underground cave-like temples, they had a hole to the outside world, and on the spring equinox, the sun would enlighten this image, the main image, the focal point of the temple. Just a little astrotheological connection there.
Yeah.
For the spring.
What they're really doing, whenever you see astronomical images, astrological images, it's astrotheological. And what that really is it's about you. We can put it out to the macrocosm, but that's not very relatable for most people. You are an immediate universe in yourself. You are a sun and a moon and a Mars and a Jupiter. These are different parts of your body and different aspects of your own psyche. So it's always best to have the knowledge that eventually all these things are about you, and they're not about the stars or the sun. The sun's like you in the morning. It wakes up, and then it's midday, and you're hitting your best, and then it goes to sleep at night. It's you.
Yeah.
There's a famous revelation of the zodiac where there's a man bent backwards around the zodiac, his feet at Pisces and the top of his head at Aries, and each one of these signs represents a part of the body. That's why the scorpion's stinging at the bull's testicles, because the scorpion's at the level of your testicles.
Cool.
Right, so I must say one last thing just to finish that off, unless we have anything else to say. I mean, there's so much to go on, but I think you can get bogged down in it all. This is the survival of a very ancient science. That science is in the time associated with the precession of the equinoxes. And if you want to find out about this very sacred science based on harmonies, watch the previous episodes that say Ryan 7 Amish Inquisition on them. And you'll find out all about that. It seems to be a preservation of a science that goes way back further than even the first recorded religions. And it always includes the mushroom, but it always includes some very highly magical maths that seem to be a basis of the universe, which is one of the things that they're getting at with this fiery platonic realm, that it leaks through. And that leakage is really the number system that then conducts the harmony of the universe, of the cosmic spheres.
We're talking about Pythagorean number theory then, the sort of the theology of the monad and the doad and the tetrad, and that this is how the universe created. You have it's like, I mean, the physicists have confirmed what they were saying thousands of years ago, that there is a singularity, and that this singularity divides and creates a duality, and from there's this massive explosion, an instantaneous explosion out of nothing, or out of something.
Yeah.
Is that what we're getting
Who is it? Give me one miracle and I can give
me
you
one
physics.
free. It's Terence McKenna, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's Terence.
Give me one free miracle and we'll explain the rest. How do you get something out of nothing? Well, you can't.
So I'd like to add something to that, and something I was talking to Phil about very briefly on Messenger the other day. So a lot of this stuff relates to a book called Hamlet's Mill, very famous and garbled book. And the point in that book is the saying that there's a lot of myths that seem to encode a very ancient science. I have delineated this science in the podcasts that I've done. It's the science of harmony and numbers and astronomy and time, the timing of the planets, the timing of the stars, and then astronomical distances and things like that. Very complex. It's fun, though, once you get into it. Atlantis.
Oh, yeah.
In Hamlet's Mill, they say this story is basically, there was this mill in the sky. It was turned. The mill broke and fell in the sea. That's it, isn't it, essentially? And it doesn't explain it much more than that, other than telling you lots of examples. Now, I had a bit of an epiphany, and it's related to all this Mithraic stuff. So, at some point, sorry, forget that. Atlantis. Do you know why Atlantis is called Atlantis? What's the net word Atlantis?
Is it the Atlantic Ocean or the Atlas Mountains?
It's Atlas himself.
Oh, the god
Atlas. Do you know what Atlas does?
He also has a world on his shoulders.
He holds the heavens on his shoulders.
Sorry.
So Atlantis is named after a guy that holds the heavens on his shoulders, the pole star. You know, the pole and the pole star, Atlas. Well, surely if everything seems to be astrotheological, we should be looking up. Now you've got the central... Atlantis was said to be made of several rings. A central point, one ring, some water, another ring, some water, another ring. Lots of water. The pole star, when you look up, is surrounded by a lot of stars that are called the circumpolar stars. Those are the immortal stars that never set. They never dip below the ocean. Then you've got another ring of stars. And then you've got the zodiac as another ring of stars. Atlantis speaks of a perfect age. Now, the problem with the zodiac and the calendar and all those things is that you'd love it to be 360 days in a year.
Should be.
Yeah, because of 360 degrees in a circle. You'd love there to be 12 months in a year, not 13 or whatever it happens to be that year. You'd love it to be 12. It's not perfect up there. This is the fall of Atlantis. It's gone from a perfect age to an imperfect age, skewed off
23.5 degrees.
and dipped into the sea. Half the zodiac at any one time is dipping in the sea.
Yes.
So this is my revelation this week, folks. I'm going to pursue this further, and I'd love anyone out there to have a good look at that, because I think there's something to it.
I've got a book for you then. You can borrow that one.
Oh, it's your sexy lady book.
Yeah, there's some...
Can I show this on the camera? Got a sexy lady on
Keith in that book highlights the ideal. So the ideal mile should be 6,000 feet. The ideal year should be 360 days.
Have you
The
finished
month
it?
should be 30 days. Yeah, take it on with you. There's a lot of mathematical proofs in it, which are interesting. But, it might be
I
useful.
had a little look at his site when he said, and as I said to Phil, the best thing about this book is that no one knows you're reading the occult because it looks like porn.
It does. Yeah. What do you think set off? What do you think skewed us off? Do you think there was some sort of cataclysm that skewed us off 23.5 degrees and it terminated the golden age?
Plato said that this age is, you've forgotten that there's been ages before this, and that the myth of Phaeton holds the same as the myth of Atlantis. This is his preface to talking about Atlantis. Now, the myth of Phaeton is the same as the myth of Mithras, but different, in that Phaeton gets in the chariot of Sol, and rather than making his way up to that realm, Phaeton is an arrogant SOB, gets on the Sol's chariot. Sol's his dad. Gets on Sol's chariot, the chariot of the sun, with these 4 mad horses. And Sol's like, listen, son, it's a 4 horsepower one, this. I don't know if you can handle it. I crap my pants every time I get to the top. And when I'm coming back down again, you better grab hold. It's frightening. And he's like, yeah, Dad, whatever. Give me the keys. Blip, blip. So he gets on the chariot. And much of the story is about Phaeton shitting his pants basically, and like his knees turn to jelly, and he loses his bottle, and the horses are going everywhere, and everywhere gets burned. And
Conflagration.
the conflagration, the same conflagration that ends the age for the Mithraists. This conflagration that comes from the Lion's Maw, which is eternity coming into the now, and that eternity and now is these numbers. These numbers are like the pattern. They are the pattern of existence. It looks like, even to. Even when I'm talking about like these things, I'm talking mythologically or what the ancients thought. But frankly, from looking at it, and I think Phil would agree, it does look like that these numbers are the pattern. Have you heard about Randall Carlson's mate's engine? They've made a turbine from all this. There's a lot of hoo-ha about it, but I've looked at it and it looks pretty kosher to me.
I've not looked into it. A lot of people trust Randall and his judgment, and he's bought in. So
Yeah,
but I'll wait and see.
That's what I said. Wait and see to when an engine's produced out of it. But
Yeah.
there are engines produced out of it. We've just not been shown them yet.
Tesla is into this 0 point energy.
Mm-hmm. Well, that fiery realm is the 0 point. I've even written it in the book that I'm writing as the 0 point. Yeah, it's like the. Okay, I keep saying it was Lucifer. Now, why is it Lucifer? This energy, the Luciferian energy. Lucifer means light bearer. So it's anything. The mushroom is Luciferian, and it's particular Lucifer, because it holds. It's like the ancient story is it holds the light of the eternity in there. This fiery stuff, because that's what it does to you. It strips you all away, burns you all away, and then you're in this fiery realm. So it's seen as holding the same energy. So I think those torches are often symbolic of the mushroom as much as the symbolic of consciousness. I've lost my thread.
I was going to say, you didn't really stamp your nail on what you thought the conflagration was. Do you think it's a comet strike or being hit by Nibiru or what?
So Taurus again.
Solar mass ejection.
Yeah, Taurus has a lot of meteors and comets coming from that direction.
The Taurids, yeah.
Yeah. And Halloween's at that time, but I think, that's also Halloween's peak mushroom season as well. I think these things are very mixed.
It's got to be a hell of a comet to knock Earth off its axis. I think it's got to be like planetoid.
Well, wait a minute. The Plato, when he's talking about Atlantis, he pretty much puts it at when Graham Hancock puts his comet strike at.
Yeah. I just don't think a comet strike is going to knock Earth off its axis. I think maybe...
I don't think it ever was. I mean, in my head, I've not really thought about this much, but I don't think there ever was a perfect...
Do you know?
No, I think it's probably a mathematical average. For a while it might be perfect, and for a while it's above, and then for a while it's below, something like that. I've not put too much thought to it.
Just to throw it out there, we have this asteroid belt.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there was something that hit Earth millions and billions of years ago in the early solar system. Maybe that's what the moon is. I mean, was it Chris Tolworthy who was saying that part of that is buried inside the Earth still? There is some lump of iron or something still.
Well, I'm sure that's like in the mainstream.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Something hit us.
Yeah, and that's where the iron core comes from.
And that's maybe where the tilt comes from. If we'd been left alone, we would have lived in this ideal golden age. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, comets have struck the Earth, big ones. The moon probably did strike the Earth twice, probably. Yes. A lot of this is so cosmic and beyond me. I'm just a little dude, do you know what I mean? This is tough. I've got a leg up in some ways because I'm willing to go to places that most people that study this stuff aren't. I don't have a stake in academia. I'm just trying to find something out. I tell you one thing though, every time I actually take these mysteries seriously and bury down to the root of something, it's always true. Everything they said about the mushrooms is true. Everything they said about the maths is true. That's as far as much as I can say. They're not stupid at all. They are literally keeping this sacred knowledge close to the chest, and it's the same in all the mystery traditions. With a very small amount of variety.
Yeah, on pain of death.
Well, let me. I've got an image for you, if that's all right.
I've lost it. Here we are. Forward or backwards?
Forwards, it'll be.
Forwards will go. This is the last one, I think.
Is it?
Oh, no, sorry.
Keep going.
That's the last one.
There
Oh, my
you go.
gosh. I didn't even see this one.
I've put a few in recently. So more mushroom images.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
That's... Stop recording. Doesn't matter. Carry on.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. So we've seen this in the previous episodes, but those are two Zoroastrian stroke Mithraic priests. Well, one's a king, but he's given the other guy a mushroom. And on the left is the Indian Mithra. And see those two deities above him that are very much like a swastika. Well, this was the first image of Mithra I could find that wasn't somebody's drawing. And if you look at what they're holding in the hands, it's so obviously mushrooms. You're not telling me those aren't mushrooms.
Yeah.
The two guys have blown them up here at the bottom.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it almost looks like the Isle of Man, the Manx symbol
Yeah.
as well.
Which is, I think that's Mycenaean, funnily enough, that triple-footed thing. If we look to the top right, those are the mushrooms that we've already seen in Mithras Cave. The dagger itself is mushroom-shaped there in the top right. One down. And then there's an image of Mithras and Sol sharing food, and the halo of Sol is over the hat of Mithras in the background over a blade, which is just a Liberty Cap mushroom. Underneath that, and this I will finish this thought off now. So underneath that is a flying willy with testicles, if you can see it. And I've flipped it round as well, and you can see that willy part with the hairs coming out is a mushroom. But this is this Luciferian sex force that I keep talking about. So now let's get down to this. Why is Mithras Lucifer? So Lucifer's a rebel. Lucifer means light bearer. Lucis Ferris. Mithras as this black sun, which is the creative masculine force. So you got to think that literally just the energy that powers the universe is a masculine thing. The matrix that receives that energy is feminine. So there's this masculine creative force that is in this fiery realm and comes out through the pole star and powers everything, including your libido. This power to the ancient Greeks was called eros, as in erotic desire. So what happens when this erotic force is put into time? Well, time is eternity split into duality. There's a past and a present. And there's a male and a female. It's almost like the past is a male looking to shag the female at the end of time, if you get me. So... well, what is it about this erotic force in us? Well, I have the erotic force for this drink in front of me. I want to intercourse with this drink. If I have a bit of that drink, it'll help along this podcast. And help us to chat a bit more, lubricate the stuff. But if I use it wrongly, then it'll mess me up. It's the serpent in the Garden of Eden. It's going, eat the fruit. And you're going, well, that fruit's poison. No, it'll wake you up. It's like this dialectic that goes on in your head all the time. When you know damn well you should or you shouldn't do it. And everything is a poison and a medicine. Eat too many coconuts, you'll die. Do you know what I mean? So it's how this force itself, when it comes to you and urges you to do things, is either a poison or a medicine. So it's Lucifer, the light bearer. The light itself is the serpent. This sex force, this energy that powers us all and everything in the universe is Luciferian. It carries the light. It might do you good. It might do you bad. It's how are you behaving with it. And so Mithras is this energy purified. He's one step back. He's one step up. If you go and follow Mithras, you get over your animal self. You've learned from Lucifer, and you've climbed up the back of that serpent, which would have 7 vertebrae or 33 vertebrae or whatever. You climb up that serpent. You climb up the serpent of your spine, the 33 vertebrae of your spine, or the 7 nerve branches of your spine. You climb up that. You get to the pineal, and like Mithras popping out at the top of that tree, you can see further. Horus is a good example of this character as well. He sees above everybody else. And so you learn from the devil. That's why Baphomet is the devil expressed in a useful way. Baphomet is showing the androgyne, which is the sexual force, in no time. It's only androgynous because there's no male and female. Male and female happens in time. So Baphomet is like a way of, it's like chastity and, so prohibition, and just being good basically, and saving all these energies of your body, and then conducting them in the right way, so you can have these enlightened experiences, these mushroom experiences, without needing the mushroom. And that's done by heavy breathing, sex without orgasm, Kundalini stuff, everything that was in that Mithraic stuff. And the Mithraists were like super duper. They were like spiritual jackass. Although they were discouraged from orgasm and things like that, they were firing at bows and arrows and at each other as dares. For the soldier grade, it was like, right, there's 28 of them and 1 of you, and they're going to beat the shit out of you, and you've just got to put up with it. It was like a proper boys' club. But these guys are going to war. Do you know what I mean? So they were ready. They'd had that feminine cow beaten out of them by their own dare. I've got one story to tell before we finish this off. So before I'd realised all this stuff, me and my mate invented the cult of Mithras for ourselves. And I got it off Flash Gordon, the wonderfully crappy film, which is one of my favourite films of all time, but it's awful. The 1980s Flash Gordon. Yeah, in it, Ming the Merciless goes, I can't remember the quote exactly, but he's talking about what he's going to do to Flash, and he goes, the Earth. And he goes, she'll do it for the honour of Daizan, in the glory of Daizan. And I just found it funny. So every time I was doing something that hurt me, but improved me, I'd do it for the glory of Daizan. So me and my mate, this one night said, right, what we're going to do is we're going to walk up to Forest of Bowland, which is, 25 miles away from here. So we walked it there. We said we're going to take nothing, no knives, no, just basic equipment and a little bit of food with us, and some of those things that Mithras occults. Yeah. And we're just going to walk it, and like the harder it is, the more fun it'll be, because we know we can survive it by using our brains and holding on. Well, we got to the very foot of the hill that we were going to go up, and there was like a donut cloud above us, and it was the only cloud in the sky. And it literally got to the foot of the hill, and it was. I managed to cover my head in time, but it was that hard. The rain, it was bouncing up under our jackets. My legs were soaking. It was awful. It was fantastic. It was the best thing that happened all night, because it made everything else miserable. But it was awesome, because we're like, we get to this place, make a fire, get ourselves dried, enjoy extracting the awesome from the shit, which is the point of the Philosopher's Stone, is it not?
Spiritual alchemy.
Exactly. One of the best nights of my life. It was really difficult. There was 10 minutes there. It was like, we need to go home. We're going to freeze to death here. The fire wasn't lighting. Everything we tried, it was awful. We ended up doing some fire breathing onto the fire from a petrol lighter.
Did you get the fire going?
Yeah. Yeah.
You live to tell the tale.
And then when we woke up in the morning, it turned out we're in the middle of a pheasant enclosure, and all these pheasants everywhere, like little raptors. It was like, whoa, what's going on here? Good job we didn't have the Mithraic sacrament last night, which we didn't.
Well, Ryan, we've done 2 hours.
You blasted through 2 hours.
Wow.
And we only did like the first 4 stages of initiation.
Yeah.
Oh God, we could have carried on for a long time. I think we've got drilled down to it there, though.
Yeah.
All you need to do now, Ryan, is watch mine and Ben's favourite program, Raised by Wolves.
100%. The
Oh, I like Raised by
documentary
Wolves.
on the
Yeah.
Mithras.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't watch that latest series. It's been cancelled on now, hasn't it?
Yeah,
I watched the first one. I was like, yeah, this is great. I really like it.
yeah. I thought that might be up your alley.
Yeah.
I mean, I will spoil the second series for you because
Thanks.
he's crucified upside down at the end and floating,
Like St. Peter.
and we'll never know why. Never know why.
No. It's a mystery.
What did they reveal? What the? I mean, I know what that snake is. What did it reveal? What the serpents were?
No, it's all everything's still up in the air as
Two
far as I remember.
serpents. It's the two serpents.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, that'll be the DMT serpents.
that's and the serpent that went around that
The
deity.
Caduceus
Yeah.
and Arimaneus.
We need to write some fan fiction.
Yeah.
Third series consigned to paper.
Oh mate, I'm still writing my book, and it's just the most difficult thing I've ever done. It is.
How long is it going to be?
It was. I said to you at one point, last June, but it just keeps growing. You know, I've hit the mark that it would be for 75,000 words for a book. I hit that mark, and I've well superseded it. I've got like a chapter to go. Just this Mithras chapter was like 23,000 words for one chapter. It's pissing me off. I tell you the effect. It's pissing me off.
I wait with bated breath.
Yeah.
You're going to be one of the first people to get it
Good.
and correct it.
Yeah.
And say I don't understand what you're on about.
I'll proofread it for you.
Yeah, please do.
No problem.
I want you. I'm going to give you a red pen. And you can-
Yeah?
No, doesn't make sense.
I'm sure they do this digitally now, no? Rather than a red pen. You're going to print off 100,000 words.
Yeah, like that.
Give me a red pen.
Just write on your screen. And take photos.
Well, we're going to have to sign off. Anything to add, Ben?
No, that was great. Cheers, Ryan. Absolutely mind blowing as usual.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for coming again, Ryan. Love talking to you.
Yeah,
We look
it's
forward
good
to the
fun
book.
every time.
The links are in the description if you want to check out Ryan's YouTube channel. He's got lots of videos on there.
The secret
Definitely
science.
check.
Yeah, the secret science. And,
Most of them are from here now. Repeats.
yeah,
I'm like
there's
Dave.
some- Yeah, like Dave. Yeah, our Dave.
Called Ryan.
Yeah, we'll be back very shortly for some brief housekeeping because
brief.
it's getting on in time. But yeah, if you want to hear a little bit of news and some housekeeping very quickly, we shall be back in about 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Ta-ra.
There.
Tatty bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Ryan.
Bye, everybody.